And in order to get to that profound ending, that meaning that I am sort of pulling from it, you know, this idea that people's toxicity can come out in the worst ways, and this whole coffee table is a metaphor for that, you can only get to that conclusion if you can handle just how uncomfortable and awful the premise of this movie is. Hi guys, there is a new twisted film that I want to tell you all about called The Coffee Table. This is another one of those films that TikTok starts warning everyone about, going, do not watch this movie. Please do not watch this movie. It's too full on, it's too disturbing. And as a result, I'm sitting at home going, yeah, I think I'm going to watch this movie.
This is probably the most disturbing movie I've ever seen in my life. The film is called The Coffee Table, and it's a 2023 Spanish movie. And let me tell you, I am gooped and gagged.
This is one of those movies that you watch and then you numbly sit there like a week later still thinking about it.
Imagine swimming in the middle of the ocean and you see a shark fin. That anxiety is what this movie does to you for 90 minutes and holds you there the entire time.
I have never had to stop a movie midway to go grab a drink because of how anxious I was.
This horror movie doesn't show up on my list of best horror movies of the year, which will surprise me. It sure as hell is going to show up as one of the most disturbing.
This right here is by far the most disturbing movie that I have ever talked about on TikTok to date. And I feel morally obligated to warn you. It is a deeply evil movie.
I can't even remember how long it has been since something caught me so off guard. Hold on, I'm getting a call. Call. What's up, Justin?
Fuck you.
This was impossible to find in Australia, like really hard to find. I really had to like scour Reddit forums to actually find this movie, and I'm so glad I found it, because despite how full on and uncomfortable this movie is, I also think it's kind of a masterpiece. It works as a bit of a fable, similar to The Banshees of Inisherin, where it sounds like this folk tale of like, oh, did you ever hear about the man that cut off a finger each time someone spoke to him? This film feels like that. It feels like a true crime story that you would read about in a newspaper that people would tell their kids about 30, 40 years later. What I think this film's crowning achievement is it feels like you've peeped into a scene of a crime. It feels like a story you hear about in the news or on TikTok or something, and you and your friends kind of ponder about like, oh my God, imagine what would you even do in that situation. So I want this video to serve a few purposes. If you've never seen this film but you're curious as to what happens and you don't have the stomach to watch it, I'm going to give you a complete plot run through, both spoiler free and spoiler full. And also, if you have seen this movie, I want to add some ideas of what I think the meaning behind the movie is, kind of some additional thoughts, some additional analysis, so it's a more full experience for you. So without further ado, let's talk about one of the most disturbing movies I've seen in a while, called The Coffee Table. Now, just a side note, this is going to be one of the funniest spoiler-free sections I've ever done, because the climax of this movie happens like 12 minutes in. I shit you not. So spoiler-free review, the movie opens with the scene of a woman giving birth. She's a bit older than what you typically expect to see of a new mother, and that is actually an important plot detail, and she's giving birth. Then we get a hard cut to the title, The Coffee Table. The movie opens with them wanting to buy a coffee table, all right? And the father wants to buy this hideous looking coffee table, like absolutely disgusting looking coffee table. Tacky, gold naked women are like the legs of the coffee table, and then it's this glass. And funnily enough, the salesman is sitting there going, oh, by the way, if you assemble this once properly assembled, the glass is pretty much unbreakable. You cannot break this glass. It's super, super tough and rigid. It is practically unbreakable. It's a really weird thing for him to focus on, but he like tries to market this as a selling point. Now, this film is described as a black comedy. It is the blackest of black comedies, knowing where it goes, but a lot of the humor kind of comes from the kind of dumb, oafish husband and the competent but like harsh wife. That is the dynamic that we see play out here, and it is what kind of creates the humor and also the tension in this movie. So in this opening section, he's going like, oh babe, this coffee table's awesome, and she's sitting there going like, are you an idiot? This coffee table's disgusting.
Es una mierda.
Bueno, cariño, pues esta mierda es la que yo quiero, ya lo sabes.
Jesús, es horrible. Y no pega con nuestra decoración, con ese cristal y la imitación tan cutre.
You know, he starts kind of coming back at her and going like, oh, everything in the apartment is yours. Why can't I just get one thing?
Y yo he elegido esta, ya está. Yo no quiero esta porquería mierda. Cariño, vamos a ver, elegiste los colores de las paredes de casa, el día que nos vamos a casar, el traje que voy a llevar yo, el que va a llevar mi madre. Y por no decirte que... Bueno. ¿Por no decir qué? Venga, va, por no decir qué. Pues por no decirte que para mí no era el momento para tener hijos, cariño. ¿Que no era el momento?
He then alludes to the idea that it was also her idea to have a baby. He didn't want to have a baby this soon, and he throws that in her face, to which she says, well, how much longer did you want to wait? Look how old I am. But basically, he beats her down into verbal submission. He keeps insisting to get this hideous table. She goes, oh, fucking fine. You get this hideous table. It's the one thing you get. I don't want to help you make it. I hate it. So then we're treated to this hilarious section where he has to get the coffee table in the box all the way up like multiple flights of stairs to their apartment because she doesn't want to help him out of spite. While they're on the way up to the stairs, his neighbor, this like young girl, comes up to him and basically starts being like, when are you going to tell your wife about us? When are you going to tell your wife that we're in love? And actually starts alluding to the idea that he is a PDF file. This feels like a really random inclusion at this point, but it does actually come back later. But basically he says, nothing's going on here. I'm just your neighbor. Please stop trying to make us happen. It's not going to happen. It's a really strange scene. There is some humor in the way that this young girl is talking, but it's very odd at this point.
Pues deja a María y a tu hijo y nos vamos si quieres esta noche. Nos vamos a donde tú quieras. Yo estoy dispuesta a todo.
Mira, me tengo que ir.
They then get back to the apartment. Anyway, so now it's time for Jesus to actually build the coffee table, and he realizes that a screw is missing, so he can't put the glass in place for the coffee table.
Joder, falta un tornillo para el cristal.
He then calls the salesman as this big like alpha dog, macho man of the house and goes, you know what? You're actually going to come over and you're going to bring me that extra nail so I can build this premium luxury coffee table that you sold me. And then he looks at the wife like, yeah, you see, I did that. Now, Maria, the wife, is obviously not impressed because she hates this stupid coffee table. Again, this is kind of the core tension and the core humor of this movie is how silly this little fight over the coffee table is and how much Maria hates it and how much he loves it, almost out of spite, almost as just this move of like, well, I want this coffee table because I never get anything in this house.
Sabes, todo lo que hay en la casa lo has elegido tú, ¿vale? Lo único que he elegido yo, lo único ha sido la mesita. Y mira cómo te estás poniendo.
Entonces, todo lo demás es mío. ¿El niño también?
El niño es de los dos.
Así que si algún día nos divorciamos, me quedaré con todo lo demás.
Pues mira, sí, quédate con todo. Te quedas tú todo y yo me quedo con la mesita debajo de un puente. Los dos ahí, bueno, los tres van a estar ahí. ¿Contenta? Ya.
It's really important to understand the sort of like temporary rift that this silly little coffee table is causing for this couple. Regardless, Maria gets fed up, explains to Jesus that his brother and his brother's new girlfriend are coming over for lunch later, so she's going to leave him with the baby for one of the first times ever with the coffee table, and she's going to go out and get wine and snacks and whatever else for the lunch they're going to have. So he is left with this baby and this coffee table that he hasn't assembled properly. And basically the baby won't stop crying. He's walking around, he's like, baby, please relax, baby, please be quiet. He's clearly not ready to be a father. You can tell it doesn't come naturally to him. It just doesn't sit right. You know, at this point, how immature he's been, the way he actually came at his wife and said he wasn't ready to have kids, it is clear that he is kind of a begrudging, incompetent father, and he's trying to like figure out how to actually like calm this child down. And now we are going to get into spoiler sections and also like content warning. Now, for storytelling purposes, I don't want to tell you exactly what happens until I actually get to that point in the story, but you can probably figure a vague idea of where this is going. Tap out now. Assume the worst thing happens. We're going to get into spoiler sections and also like heavy subject matter, so you're warned. Okay, so the father walks off frame and basically goes, oh, baby, do you want to see the coffee table? Now, what I think happens off screen is he places the baby on the coffee table that isn't properly assembled, and then it collapses and the baby dies. Now, regardless, you don't actually see fully how it happens. There's a chance he fell with the baby into the coffee table. I am not exactly sure. But regardless, when we do actually see what's happened, we see that the glass is shattered and the baby has been... Now, I just want to stress, this is 15 minutes in. So you're sitting there going, what's going to happen for the rest of the movie? And spoiler alert, the rest of the movie is just this husband trying to figure out the impossible, trying to come to terms with what he's done and tell his wife, who has been struggling to get pregnant for years, that he has accidentally killed their newborn baby. It's awful. It's harrowing. It's uncomfortable. And I actually really admire TikTok for this suggestion. Normally when TikTok's like, oh, this movie's really full on, it's really disgusting. Normally it's just something like a Serbian film, which has no emotion and it's all just like senseless violence and gore and shock value. This movie's the complete opposite. You don't actually see any full on gore or any full-on like disturbing stuff. It is just the concept. It is this awful, awful black comedy of errors where basically this awful kind of dark comedy situation of this couple fighting over this coffee table has led to the death of their newborn child. Absolutely uncomfortable. So from here, we can kind of speed run the rest of the movie. The rest of the movie is just this winding up of tension. It just never lets go, you know? The wife calls and goes, oh, I've just bumped into someone at the shops. They want to hear the newborn. Can you put the baby on the phone? And he's like, no, sorry, the baby's sleeping, you know, and then he's sitting there going, oh my God, I need to clean up the apartment. So then you watch him for like 15-20 minutes try and get all the blood out of the house, try and clean up. He moves the body of the baby into the crib, into the nursery. Important detail, we are going to have to get a bit specific here. The baby has lost its head. So the baby's head is under the couch. I think he does actually see that the baby's head is under the couch, but he can't bring himself to pick it up. He like can't come to terms with it. So he's in a state of shock. He goes to the neighbor's house and goes to get some detergent and some cleaning materials, to which that weird flirty neighbor is there. And she goes, hey, we need to talk about the fact that we're in love. And in order to get into the house and borrow these cleaning materials, he just says, fine, come over later, whatever. So then in one of the most awful scenes I think I've ever seen in cinema, the wife gets home and she goes, oh my God, how was the baby? Like, where is he? And he goes, and he chokes. He goes, the baby's sleeping. Let's not wake up the baby. She then pulls the husband aside and goes, hey, I've just realized how silly our little argument over the coffee table was. Like, I'm so sorry we were arguing about that. It's so stupid. Of course you deserve things you want in the apartment. Absolutely tragic scene. We have seen this couple be nothing but nasty and mean to each other and resentful to each other and bringing the baby into arguments. And now that the baby is gone, without the wife knowing, obviously, she's coming to him and being like, hey, let's make up. Let's be amazing parents for our baby. And Yezos is sitting there going, fuck. It's darkly comic, but it's also just absolutely tragic. It's so harrowing. She then goes, oh, did you finish the coffee table? He then has to take her out and go, as you can see, I smashed the coffee table. The wife just starts pissing herself laughing and starts mocking him and going, oh my God, after all that, this unbreakable table has shattered. Oh my God, you must feel like an absolute idiot, and just starts like roasting him and digging in the knife. And obviously we're sitting there as the audience member going like, fuck, you know, she's bullying him while he's sitting there with the guilt of the death of their child. It's a fantastic sequence and it works on both levels. You can either sit there and have this morbid sort of chuckle at it, or you can sit there and just be like, Jesus Christ.
¿Qué has hecho para romperlo? Pero ¿cómo te lo has podido cargar tan rápido? Me hubiera encantado ver el momento justo en el que se rompió.
The brother comes over for the lunch. We can speed run this section. It is a great section. Basically, we just see that he is wrapped with guilt. He keeps having these visions that the baby is like crying through the baby monitor when the baby monitor obviously is not doing that. He has visions that the pie he's eating is turning into blood. He cracks it at the brother for having such a inappropriately young girlfriend. We then find out that the brother's girlfriend is actually pregnant, and then the girlfriend starts saying, oh my God, our kids can have play dates. How sweet will that be? And at this point, as an audience, you're just sitting there going, Jesus Christ. Then the brother's girlfriend starts asking Maria, oh my God, what's it like to be a mother? To which Maria goes, oh, it's the best feeling in the world. This baby is the love of my life. It is a harrowing sequence. Then Yezos just can't do it anymore. He sneaks off to the bathroom and records a video that is meant to serve as a self-deletion note, right? He films a video that's basically going to be his famous last words to Maria, where he talks about the fact that I didn't mean to kill this baby. I didn't mean to put you through this. I can't live knowing I've done this. So I'm going to have to take, you know, the nuclear option. Please don't hurt yourself. Love again. Have a new child. I can't live with myself. The brother walks by and overhears this and goes, what is this? What is this for? To which now Yezos opens up to the brother and tells the brother, in the nursery, there is the body of my baby. Yeah. So the brother goes into the room, picks up the baby from the nursery. We actually get this really haunting shot where blood is dripping through the cot, sees and is absolutely horrified this dead body of the baby. Also, guys, I'm really sorry about my French bulldog snoring in the background. I hope it isn't too bad. Anyway, so the brother picks up the body of the baby and goes, oh my God, where is the baby's head? To which Jesus reveals the baby's head is under the couch in the living room where everyone's having lunch. An insane reveal. Now, we did know this. This was shown to us earlier, but hearing that verbalized out loud and seeing a normal person's reaction to this just absolutely unimaginably horrific event is insane. The brother basically says, okay, like, we need to tell your wife. We just need to rip the Band-Aid off. So what we're going to do is I'm going to tell my girlfriend to basically take your wife to the hospital, to the police station, whatever, after we tell her. And then we're going to go get the baby's head and body and, you know, do what we need to do with it, take it to the authorities, whatever, right? But basically in this sequence, the brother is stressing to Jesus, we cannot let Maria see the baby's head. She cannot go through that. That is basically seen as the driving point of this final sequence. So,
vamos a volver a la mesa. Y no digas nada. Cállate y sígueme la corriente. Voy a decirle a María todo lo que ha pasado. Lo tiene que saber ya. Pero por nada del mundo debemos dejar que vea al niño sin cabeza. Eso no puede suceder.
So in the last 10 minutes of the movie, right, this whole movie has just been squeezing this tension of like, how are you going to tell this poor woman what has happened to her child? And unfortunately, something gets in the way. They come out and that neighbor that has been flirting with him and saying like, I want to be with you, tell your wife you're going to leave your wife for me, has shown up because he did say earlier, yeah, come over later to get those cleaning supplies, right? So now this 13, 14-year-old girl basically just creates a fabricated lie and says, hey, tell your wife that we kissed. So now when the brother and Jesus have basically come out to tell the world's worst news, now he has to face allegations of being a creep. Not only that, this young girl has a dog. And the worst thing happens. The absolute worst thing in this situation happens. The dog runs over to under the couch, grabs the head. It grabs the head, and basically everyone starts screaming. The brother and Jesus are being like, oh my God, put it down. Maria, don't look. And Maria's like, what is there? Why wouldn't I look? Oh my God, why is the dog have blood on its face? What's going on? And then, yeah, the dog drops it, I think, or one of the characters picks it up, and Maria sees. It is absolutely, there is no real feeling you can describe watching this scene. It's just everyone's heart is on the floor.
Hazme caso y vete. No es necesario que vivas esto. Vete de aquí y luego te explicaremos.
Great performance from Maria. She goes completely dead silent. You get this incredible 360 tracking shot of everyone just sitting there in shock. Because what do you even say in this absolutely awful situation? By the time this 360 shot is complete, it shows a balcony and Maria is nowhere to be seen, basically implying that Maria threw herself off the balcony. The movie then leaves the apartment. Basically, up until this point, the movie has entirely taken place in this apartment complex. It served as a sort of bottle movie. We have left the apartment complex, and you get this incredible closing sequence where basically the cops are explaining a very A to B quick summary of what we've just witnessed. They basically go, yeah, not really sure if it's a murder self-deletion situation, but we know that the wife threw herself off the building. The husband threw himself off the building shortly after. We found the body of a decapitated baby in the apartment, and the woman was holding the head of the baby. Absolutely devastating reveal. And I just want to stress and talk about this movie's tonality. It was listed as a black comedy, and as awful as this sounds, a lot of this movie feels like the world's most dark, twisted version of like Weekend at Bernie's. It feels like this husband trying to get away with this absolutely impossible, oh my fucking God situation. There is this really mean-spirited sense of humor in certain situations when he's trying to like hide things and cover up things and people are getting in the way, and the situation just gets worse and worse and worse. However, this final sequence where Maria actually finds out what happens, and also this police sequence, are properly devastating and really, really haunting. And it kind of solidifies this movie to me as a fantastic piece of tension and also exploration of guilt and grief. So regardless, the police continue and reveal that basically the young neighbor is having an anxiety attack. The brother's girlfriend is in a complete state of shock and needs to be taken to the hospital. And the brother is traumatized and just keeps repeating the same 3 words, the coffee table. Now you could end the movie there and I would have been like, wow, that was a really great, intense, uncomfortable movie. I'm not sure if I could watch it again. However, this final shot actually kind of like devastated me. I was watching this at like 1 a.m. in bed and I felt like I needed a hug. So the car leaves and it shows this shot of Maria, Jesus embracing each other, holding the baby and staring down at this coffee table. I don't know if the movie is going for the idea that they are ghosts, but just this haunting visual out of nowhere that basically these 3 people are now unified in this absolute tragedy, just looking at the object that caused so much pain and discomfort and set them on this awful path where both of them have been taken out of this world, was completely devastating to me. And it was devastating for a few reasons. So now we're going to get more into my thoughts and my analysis of this film. Yeah, the idea that this couple, they've been so nasty to each other.
Usted nos ve felices gracias a la puta mesita. Usted cree que nos está portando felicidad.
Are now holding each other in a loving, romantic way, which we have never seen in this whole movie, absolutely like broke my heart. On top of that, the fact that they're holding, obviously, their dead baby that they never got to live with, completely haunting, and they're looking down at this coffee table that caused them so much pain. Hey guys, just editing, and I actually saw that they aren't looking at the coffee table. I slowed down the footage, and obviously I'm closer up to it than the way I was watching it the other night, and I see that they are looking at the baby, and the coffee table is just there, like, haunting them. And I think that is so effective and powerful. I absolutely love it. Like, this idea that in real life, they were focused on this coffee table and their own little like petty grievances with each other, and it led to this like accidental death of the child. Whereas now in the afterlife, or in this like visual metaphor, they are focused purely on the child. And the tragic reality of that is they never really did do that. They never got the chance to do that. It was just this really like unsettling thing, because previously both Maria and Jesus had been shown to be really unlikable, not shown to be in love. You know, Jesus has been shown to not really care and probably be in touch with the child the way he should be. But this ending implies that they had it both in them, and they were just so wrapped up in their own internal conflict and kind of like built up resentment for each other. I have no doubt that after Jesus got over his phobia of being a father, 5-6 years down the line, he probably would have been a pretty good dad, but this was taken away from them by this completely awful situation. And I think why this film is so effective is, as I was alluding to at the start, it sounds like a visualization of these awful news stories you hear all the time, where like, oh, a man killed his wife and his child, or this absolutely awful accident happened. But it feels like we're getting a really unfortunate and deep insight into how these situations transpire. And yeah, I don't know if I'm verbalizing it super well, but I just had this really just painful, sad experience after watching basically this guy who sees his child and his wife as this burden and this problem that he needs to solve and get out of, sitting there still finally in death, was totally tragic. I'm not saying it's a happy ending, but just this idea that the only time they all ever unified as a family unit, held each other the way they should, and came together was in death after this awful tragedy, and they are stuck there tied to this object for eternity. Now, this works as both a visual metaphor, or whether you actually think that they are forever tied to that apartment complex as like spirits, up to you. I think it was just a visualization of that concept, but as a visualization of that concept, a total gut punch. By some sickos, this movie could be classed as a bleak comedy for a good chunk of it, but that ending for me threw it into a great film, and I really hope that the director was shooting for this. Oftentimes in media, you just see rich couples that have no financial problems raise the perfect child, whereas this film feels like an exploration of the way that our stresses, both financial and emotionally, can get in the way of people being good parents and treating their children well. I know what Jesus did was not intentional. You can see that it was an accident, but clearly he was just so wrapped up in getting this stupid fucking coffee table done to prove his wife wrong or whatever that he like lost sight of just being a good parent. No one with good parental instincts would put their child on a not built glass coffee table, and the idea that this glass could never break is absolutely insane. And I think the fact that this movie is willing to look at the tragic and toxic fallout of basically couples that don't treat each other well, couples that aren't ready to be parents because they aren't even ready to look after themselves or each other, is really powerful and really haunting, and it's not a dynamic that we get in media often. So getting this much of an intimate insight into that and how they operate and how they lie to each other and how they treat each other and what that can lead to, even if it is an accident, is just absolutely haunting. I really like this movie. I can't tell anyone to watch it. And in order to get to that profound ending, that meaning that I am sort of pulling from it, you know, this idea that people's toxicity can come out in the worst ways, and this whole coffee table is a metaphor for that, you can only get to that conclusion if you can handle just how uncomfortable and awful the premise of this movie is. Because 15 minutes in, the worst thing ever happens to a child. It is absolutely harrowing, but I actually think the filmmakers pulled it off. I really like this movie, and I really did need to talk about it because that ending just, I haven't seen an ending that serves as that much of a gut punch for a while. Regardless, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a lovely day, and let me know what you'd like me to talk about next. Thank you.